Amos Tucker was fixing a leak in the old Elbridge house when his shovel hit something solid beneath the kitchen floor. He pried the boards up and uncovered bones, small human and decades old. A carved wooden ring lay among them, etched with single name, Sarah. Shaken, Amos stumbled outside. In the overgrown yard, 2 headstones leaned in the weeds, both marked Sarah Elbridge, one from 1840, the other from 1891. When the town preacher came to see, he turned pale, dropped his Bible, and left town that same night. Whatever Amos had found, the town had tried to forget. Amos Tucker wasn't looking for trouble. A handyman in his late 50s, he'd spent decades fixing pipes and patching roofs in Grayson County, Virginia, where the Blue Ridge Mountains loomed like silent judges. In October 1979, a young couple from Richmond bought the old Elbridge property, a crumbling homestead on a ridge locals avoided. They hired Amos to renovate the kitchen, oblivious to the whispers about the place. "Just a leak," they said, handing him the keys. Amos, practical and not one for gossip, took the job. The house was odd, narrow corridors, boarded windows, mirrors hung at crooked angles, but he'd seen worse in old farmhouses until he pried up the kitchen floor. The bones were small, a woman's, Amos guessed, curled in a fetal position. A wooden ring lay nestled in the ribcage, inscribed with Sarah, my life. He called Sheriff Danvers, who arrived with Dr. Ellis, the town's only physician. Ellis, usually steady, turned pale. "These aren't recent," he muttered, but refused to touch them. "Get the coroner from Galax." Amos watched the sheriff cordon off the house, his deputy muttering about that Elbridge curse. Amos didn't believe in curses, but when he saw the headstones out back, 2 Sarah Elbridges, mother and wife, dates decades apart, he felt a chill that wasn't from the mountain air. Why 2 graves? And why had no one mentioned them before? The coroner's report, filed days later, confirmed the bones were female, likely dead since the 1890s. Cause of death, undetermined. No DNA testing existed then, but the ring suggested a connection to the Elbridge family. Amos, shaken, dug into the town's history at the library. Grayson County records were sparse, but one name stood out. Jacob Elbridge, born 1869 to Sarah Elbridge, no father listed. Sarah, 31 at the time, was a recluse, rarely seen in town. Locals called her the dollhouse girl for her soft voice and unsettling stare. By 1890, census records listed Jacob as head of household at 21, living with an S. Elbridge, age 52, relationship unspecified. No marriage records, no death certificate for Sarah. Just a void. Amos learned the Elbridge land had expanded in 1890, swallowing neighboring plots. For families sold cheap and fled, leaving behind livestock and heirlooms. The Elbridges built a strange house. 7 structures linked by twisting halls, dubbed the Womb by locals for its suffocating layout. Mailmen avoided it. Hunters said the trees leaned inward, guarding something. Amos drove back to the ridge, staring at the headstones. The older one, Sarah Elbridge, 1820 to 1840, was weathered, barely legible. The newer, Sarah Elbridge, 1840 to 1891, was sharper, with a carved ring matching the one from the bones. Were they the same woman, or something stranger? He asked around town, but folks clammed up. Old Miss Clara, the librarian, warned him. Some things stay buried for a reason, Amos. She mentioned a fire in 1898 that razed the Elbridge house, leaving 3 bodies, Jacob, Sarah, and an unidentified child with deformities. The coroner's report noted the child's jaw matched Jacob's exactly. Same fracture, same crooked tooth. Amos's gut twisted. Was it incest? A secret child? And why was the preacher, Reverend Clean, so spooked he left town after seeing the headstones? Amos found a 1901 church registry mentioning an orphan, E. Jacobson, adopted by Clean. The name felt too close to Elbridge. Was this boy a survivor of the fire? And what did he carry with him? Amos couldn't sleep. He kept seeing the ring, the bones, the headstones. He called his daughter, Ellen, a history major at UVA, and asked her to dig deeper. She found a 1902 journal entry from Clean, tucked in a church archive. The boy, E, speaks in two voices, hers and his. He carves rings from wood, wears hers always. Last night, he stood over my bed, whispering, "She returns when the sun is ready." I fear I brought something unholy into my home. Ellen's voice shook as she read it over the phone. "Dad, what did you find under that floor?" Amos didn't know, but he felt the ridge calling him back. Why did the town bury this? And what was still hiding up there? Ellen Tucker arrived in Grayson County a week later, her beat-up Corolla packed with notebooks and a Polaroid camera. At 22, she was sharp, skeptical, and obsessed with folklore, perfect for unraveling the Elbridge mystery. Amos met her at the ridge, the house now taped off, deputies patrolling. "You shouldn't be here," he said, but Ellen was already snapping photos of the headstones. "Dad, this isn't just bones. It's a story the town doesn't want told." She'd found more, a 1979 newspaper clipping mentioning a UVA student, James Harker, who vanished researching the Elbridges. His notes described a spiral of disappearances centered on the ridge, dating back to the 1860s. Ellen's eyes lit up. "It's a pattern, Dad. Something's been happening here for over a century." They started with Dr. Walter Griggs's 1892 notes, locked in a university archive. Ellen sweet-talked the librarian into access. Griggs, the physician summoned to the Elbridge house, described a nightmare. Bone dolls with Sarah's face, portraits of her and Jacob aging together, and a root cellar chapel with Sarah's preserved body on a lace-covered bed. The bride returns when the sun is ready, painted in blood above her. Griggs fled, calling it a union not blessed by God nor man. Ellen cross-referenced the coroner's 1898 fire report. Sarah's body was found in the same pose, resin-treated, eyes covered with stones. Jacob's body, twisted and toothed, wore a cord of her hair. The third body, a deformed child, had Jacob's jaw. Ellen whispered, "They weren't just mother and son. They were something else." Amos and Ellen hiked the ridge, avoiding deputies. The air felt heavy, the trees too still. They found the well from Lewis Penn's 1934 notes. Its wooden cover rotted. Ellen insisted on descending, tying a rope to a tree. Amos protested, but she was already climbing down stone steps into darkness. At the bottom, a circular room, mirrors cracked and facing each other, reflecting her flashlight endlessly. A child-sized chair sat in the center, next to a wooden ring inscribed E. Jacobson. The walls bore the same phrase, "The bride returns when the sun is ready." Ellen's camera clicked, but her hands shook. "Dad, it's like they built a shrine to themselves." Amos, at the top, felt watched. "Get out, Ellen," he yelled. She climbed up pale. Something moved in the mirrors. Back in town, they tracked down Miss Clara, now 80, in a nursing home. Her eyes darted when Ellen mentioned the Elbridges. "You found the well, didn't you?" she whispered. Clara was a child in 1911 when the church flooded, destroying E. Jacobson's records. But she remembered her father, a deacon, saying the boy wasn't right. He sang to someone who wasn't there, carved rings, built shelters from roots. When Clean's house burned, they found him like Sarah, stitched mouth, stone eyes. Clara clutched Ellen's hand. The boy vanished, but the ridge didn't forget. It's still hungry. Why did Clara look so scared? And what did the ridge want? Ellen dug into Harker's 1979 notes, found by his roommate. He'd mapped disappearances, hunters, surveyors, kids, forming a spiral around the Elbridge land. His final drawing showed Sarah and a boy, aging together, mouth sewn shut. A scrawled note read, "The blood runs backward. She marries what she births." Ellen felt sick. Was this a cult? A delusion? Or something older, tied to land itself? Amos wanted to stop, but Ellen pushed on. "We're close, Dad. The bones, the rings, the mirrors, they're pieces of a ritual." They returned to the house, sneaking past tape at midnight. Under the kitchen, they found a trapdoor to a tunnel lined with scorched beams and more mirrors. At its end, a dirt altar with a single bone doll, Sarah's face carved into it. Why was it still here, untouched? Ellen and Amos reported the tunnel to Sheriff Danvers, who sealed the ridge, calling in state archaeologists. The team found more. 17 bone dolls, each with Sarah's face, and a journal fragment in Jacob's handwriting. She is my mother, my wife, my God. Her blood is mine and mine hers. We are the circle. The archaeologists dated the tunnel to the 1880s, predating the house. Ellen realized the Elbridges didn't build a house to live in. It was a temple, a womb for their twisted bond. But why the mirrors? Why the rings? And who was E. Jacobson? Ellen contacted Dr. Maria Voss, a UVA anthropologist studying Appalachian folklore. Voss met them in a Roanoke diner. Her laptop opened a Harker's spiral map. This isn't just incest, she said. It's a ritualistic bloodline, a closed loop. The Elbridges believed they were preserving something sacred. She pointed to a 1790 land deed, signed by an Elbridge ancestor, claiming the ridge as hallowed ground. Voss theorized Sarah and Jacob saw themselves as vessels for a cycle, birth, marriage, rebirth, using the ridge's isolation to hide it. The mirrors, she guessed, were for seeing her in themselves, a reflection of their union. The rings were vows, not to each other, but to the bloodline. Why did it feel like the ridge itself was alive? The archaeologists uncovered more bones in the tunnel. 6 sets, all female, spanning a century. Each had a wooden ring, inscribed with Sarah. Carbon dating placed the oldest at 1820, matching the first headstone. Ellen's theory grew. Sarah wasn't one woman but a title, passed through generations, each mother raising her son as both child and spouse. Jacob was Sarah's son and husband. E. Jacobson, likely their child, carried the cycle forward. But the 1898 fire disrupted it. Or did it? Ellen found a 1905 land sale in a neighboring county, signed by an E. Jacobson. He'd survived, started anew. Why hadn't the town stopped him? Amos, shaken, wanted to protect Ellen. This is bigger than us, he said. But Ellen was relentless, tracking E. Jacobson's trail to a 1920 census in Tennessee, listing him as a widower with no children. Then, a 1935 missing person report. A hiker near the new Jacobson land, last seen with a pale man wearing a wooden ring. The spiral was moving. Ellen and Voss mapped similar disappearances through the 20th century, always near properties tied to Jacobson descendants. In 1981, Harker's disappearance fit the pattern. His camera's final photo showed a figure in a white dress. Ellen whispered, "She's still out there." In 1982, Ellen published a paper, The Elbridge Cycle, in a small journal. It caused a stir, then backlash. Grayson County officials called it fiction. UVA dismissed Voss for unethical speculation. Ellen and Amos moved to Richmond, but the ridge haunted them. In 1985, a letter arrived, no return address, written in cursive with brown ink. "The bride is ready," it read, with a Polaroid of a bone doll. Ellen burned it, but Amos kept watch at night, shotgun by the door. Why wouldn't it let them go? In 2025, a hiker found a new well on the ridge, steps leading to a mirrored room. A child-sized chair held a wooden ring, inscribed Ellen. Amos, now 75, collapsed when he heard. Ellen, 68, returned to the ridge alone, camera in hand. She descended, found the mirrors reflecting her face, but older, eyeless, a veil of hair. She dropped the camera, ran. The ridge was silent, but the air hummed. Why was her name on the ring? And what was waiting in the mirrors? The Elbridge legacy isn't just a story. It's a warning etched in bone and blood, a cycle that refuses to break. From Sarah and Jacob's unholy bond to E. Jacobson's vanishing, the ridge holds secrets no town can bury. Amos and Ellen Tucker peeled back its layers, finding bones, dolls, and mirrors that whisper of a bloodline twisted into a spiral. Each discovery cost them sleep, safety, peace. The ridge didn't just take lives. It claimed those who looked too closely. Why does it still call, even now? Ellen's final trip to the ridge in 2025 left her shaken. Her camera's last photo, showing a figure she swears wasn't there. She and Amos live quietly now, but the letters keep coming, each with a doll or a ring. The Elbridge name is gone, but its echo lingers and whispers in the trees that lean inward, in the voices locals hear at night. What did Sarah start? Was it love, madness, or something older, tied to the land itself? And why does it want Ellen? You're part of this now. Look at your family tree. Any gaps? Any names that don't add up? The Elbridges teach us that some secrets aren't buried. They wait. Check your attic, your cellar. What's on your floorboards? Share your thoughts below. Tell us where you're watching from. And ask yourself, if the ridge called you, would you answer? Or would you run, knowing some doors once open never close?